"I don't talk much, sir, but I can cook." The human shrugged and said, "Works for me." The massive docking bay of Station Xyler hummed with life. Ships from countless alien species glided in and out, their metal shells shining under the bright docking lights. Some ships were sleek and fast, others bulky and heavily armored. Among the chaos, a single human stepped down from a small, worn transport craft. His name was Eli, and he carried nothing more than a small bag and a quiet, steady air about him. Eli's pale skin and brown hair made him stand out among the colorful aliens around him. Tentacles, scales, glowing eyes, he had never seen anything like this before. But he didn't flinch. He simply looked around, his green eyes calm, taking in the movement, the sounds, the strange smells. "Another human," muttered a tall, blue-skinned alien with long fingers and sharp eyes. "They never last here. Too fragile, too talkative, too messy." Eli didn't respond. He had learned long ago that talking too much often caused more trouble than it solved. Observation, patience, and doing things quietly, those were his tools. The human's arrival had been scheduled weeks ago, but no one expected much from him. Humans were known for their curiosity and creativity, yes, but also for being disorganized and clumsy. Station Xyler, a hub of precision and efficiency, valued control and predictable results. Commander Tharix, the alien in charge of new personnel, watched Eli's arrival from a nearby observation platform. He was an imposing figure, his multi-jointed arms folding neatly across his chest, scales glinting in the harsh lights. Tharix had seen many species and many failures. When Eli stepped off the transport without a word, the commander's sharp eyes narrowed in mild amusement. "Well," Tharix muttered to himself, "let's see what this human can do." Eli was led to the orientation area, where paperwork was exchanged in a mix of alien languages. He signed forms and nodded politely, never speaking more than a few words. The aliens whispered among themselves, amused and skeptical. "Quiet one said, "probably useless." Steam hissed from alien stoves, glowing blue flames licked the air, and containers of ingredients, some moving on their own, waited to be transformed into meals. Most of the alien cooks were suspicious and territorial. They rarely saw humans as equals, especially in something as important as feeding the crew. Eli glanced around, noting the arrangement of equipment and ingredients. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He simply started unpacking his small bag, taking out a few knives, his apron, and a notebook filled with human recipes. A tall, green alien chef named Zarvak hissed, "You will fail. You cannot cook like us. Our flavors, our techniques." Eli nodded politely. Then he began. He washed his hands carefully, organizing his workspace. He looked at the ingredients, glowing tubers, gelatinous meat substitutes, and strange liquids that changed color when exposed to air. He experimented. A pinch here, a stir there. He combined flavors the aliens had never tried, balanced spices and textures in ways that seemed impossible. By the time his first dish was done, a stew of human and alien ingredients blended perfectly, other cooks were staring in disbelief. "Wait," said a small insectoid cook, peering over the counter. He made it taste good." Commander Tharix arrived to inspect the results. He sniffed the steam wafting from the bowl, tasting a small spoonful with an expression that betrayed neither approval nor doubt. His sharp eyes studied Eli, noting the careful movements, the silence, the focus. Finally, he shrugged. "Works for me," he said simply, turning on his heels and walking away. The aliens were shocked. They had expected a disaster, perhaps embarrassment, maybe even a fire. Instead, this human had quietly produced a meal that satisfied even the most skeptical palates. Eli said nothing. He cleaned his area, organized the leftovers, and began preparing for the next meal. Over the next few days, he continued in this quiet, unassuming way. Other aliens tested him, trying to find flaws, exposing him to impossible orders or unusual ingredients. Eli adapted. He didn't complain. He didn't boast. He simply worked, combining his human knowledge with alien methods. Each meal was slightly better, more inventive, more balanced. Zarvak, the green chef, could no longer deny it. "How does he do this?" he whispered to a fellow cook. "We've been working here for decades, and he just knows." Eli, for his part, kept his answers simple. If asked about a technique, he would explain briefly, clearly, without pride. "Try it this way," he said once. "It works for me." It wasn't long before the word spread across the station. Aliens who had doubted him began requesting meals from Eli. Even high-ranking officers, who normally had strict dietary preferences, were intrigued. The human's quiet presence was starting to shift the atmosphere. Where once there was tension and skepticism, curiosity and mild admiration began to appear. Other species started watching him closely, learning from him, even attempting to mimic his methods. One evening, as Eli worked late, Commander Tharix approached him quietly. "You don't talk much," he said. "I could use more words from you." Eli shrugged. "I don't need to talk." "I cook," Tharix chuckled. "Fair enough, just keep doing what you do." And with that he left. Eli returned to his work, slicing and stirring, tasting and adjusting. The quiet human, who had been underestimated by nearly everyone on Station Xylar, was slowly proving that actions spoke louder than words. But even as Eli gained respect for his skills, he could sense that the station had challenges far beyond cooking. Supplies were limited, machinery sometimes failed, and crew morale could shift quickly. He didn't speak of these things yet. He observed, he learned, and he prepared. Because the quiet human knew that survival, success, and respect were earned not through words or boasting, but through skill, ingenuity, and the willingness to do what others would not. By the end of the week, Eli's workspace was tidy, his ingredients perfectly organized, and his meals praised by aliens from every corner of the station. Even the most cynical chefs had begun to nod politely when passing him. Commander Tharix watched from a distance, his eyes narrowing slightly, but not in anger, rather in calculation. He recognized something rare in Eli, something that could become invaluable. A human who didn't talk much but had skill, precision, and creativity beyond expectation. Eli, meanwhile, remained unaware of how closely he was being watched. He simply moved from task to task, adjusting flavors, blending alien ingredients with human intuition, and quietly leaving an impression on everyone who tasted his work. It was the first step in a journey that would test the quiet human in ways that had nothing to do with cooking. The aliens had only begun to realize that this unassuming human might be more than just a chef. Somewhere deep inside, Eli smiled faintly to himself. He didn't need recognition. He didn't need praise. He only needed to do what he did best and let the results speak for themselves. And in a station full of complex technology, alien politics, and unpredictable danger, that simple philosophy might just be what made him indispensable. The days on Station Xylar passed with a rhythm that seemed predictable at first. Yet beneath the hum of machinery and the chatter of aliens, small problems were quietly growing. The station's food replicators had begun malfunctioning, leaving gaps in the supply chain. The engineering teams were overloaded, trying to fix machinery that refused to cooperate. Even minor delays could mean spoiled rations or unhappy crew members. Eli noticed this quietly, as he always did. While the other aliens panicked or complained, he simply observed. He saw how the machines worked, how the ingredients interacted, and how the system was breaking down. Then he started experimenting. It began with small adjustments. He noticed that certain alien vegetables reacted poorly to high heat. He adjusted the stove temperatures and found a method to cook them perfectly without wasting energy. He suggested minor tweaks to some of the replicators, not in words, just in demonstration. A few skeptical engineers watched as he carefully mixed compounds in small containers, creating a paste that seemed to repair microchips when applied correctly. "What are you doing?" asked a red-scaled engineer named Vierks, stepping close. Eli didn't answer. He simply handed him the repaired chip. When Vierks inserted it into the replicator, the machine hummed and worked perfectly. The engineers exchanged startled glances. He fixed it with food chemicals," Eli shrugged. "It works for me." Word of his unconventional method spread quickly. Some aliens were intrigued, others jealous, and a few openly doubted him. "It's just luck," they muttered. "He cannot solve anything real." But Eli continued. He began experimenting in the kitchen lab, combining culinary techniques with basic chemistry. He realized that certain ingredients could stabilize energy flow, improve heat distribution, or even enhance mechanical efficiency. His quiet persistence began producing measurable improvements. Meanwhile, the station crew noticed something else. The meals Eli prepared seemed to do more than just feed them. Crew members reported feeling stronger, more focused, or even calmer after eating his dishes. Alien researchers began to study these effects with astonishment. Some claimed it was placebo, but many admitted the results were undeniable. One evening, a frantic announcement echoed through the station. The main supply replicator had gone offline completely. Without it, the station would soon run out of food. Panic spread. "Who can fix it?" shouted a panicked alien chef. "We've tried everything." Eli quietly stepped forward. "I can try," he said simply, and moved toward the machine. The engineers watched nervously. Eli examined the replicator with careful eyes, taking note of wiring, conduits, and ingredient storage tubes. He didn't speak much, only murmuring small observations under his breath. Then he began using his cooking techniques, mixing stabilizing pastes, applying heat carefully, and adjusting chemical balances inside the replicator's system. Minutes turned into an hour. Aliens hovered nervously, unsure whether the human would succeed or create a disaster. Finally, with a soft hiss and a click, the replicator powered on. The kitchen erupted in quiet awe. Commander Tharix, who had been observing from a distance, walked over, his eyes narrowing. "Interesting," he muttered. "You fixed it with cooking." Eli simply nodded. "It works for me," he replied. The incident changed the station's perception of him. Aliens who had been dismissive now sought his advice. Crew members began requesting special meals for energy or mental focus. Even the engineers, who prided themselves on logic and machinery, began consulting him for ideas. But with success came subtle tension. Some alien cooks and engineers felt threatened. They whispered in corners, questioning whether a human should have so much influence. Eli noticed the glances but did not respond. He continued quietly, doing what needed to be done. One day, Commander Tharix approached him in the kitchen. "You're more than a cook," he said, his multi-jointed arms folded. "I see it. You understand systems in ways no one else does. But there is more coming, challenges that will test more than just your kitchen skills." Eli listened, nodding slowly. He didn't ask questions. He had learned long ago that observation was as important as action. The first real test came sooner than expected. A shipment of alien ingredients arrived from a nearby colony, but it was contaminated. If used, it could poison the station or create a chain reaction in the replicators. Panic spread among the staff. The aliens debated endlessly about how to handle the shipment. Quarantine it. Burn it, dump it. Each solution had drawbacks. Time was critical. Eli quietly assessed the materials. Using his knowledge of chemistry and cooking, he began testing safe combinations, finding a way to neutralize the contamination without wasting the shipment. He worked methodically, quietly demonstrating each step to a few assistants. By the end of the day, the contaminated ingredients had been rendered safe and incorporated into meals that were praised for taste and nutritional value. The crew was stunned. Commander Tharix watched, expression unreadable. "A human," he muttered. quiet, unassuming, but capable of solving problems none of us could. As the days passed, Eli's reputation grew. He was no longer just the quiet cook, he became a symbol of human ingenuity. His methods were unconventional, but they worked. Aliens began to appreciate the human ability to see connections others missed, to improvise, and to solve problems with creativity instead of rigid procedure. Yet, even with growing respect, Eli remained humble. He never sought praise. He never boasted. He focused on observing, learning, and doing what needed to be done. He also began learning alien culinary techniques, combining them with his human methods. The results were extraordinary: flavors that no single species could have imagined, meals that boosted energy, enhanced cognitive focus, or even calmed emotional tension. The kitchen became a small laboratory of innovation. One afternoon, a small group of alien scientists visited him. "We have heard of your meals," one said. "We wish to study them. Your human methods, they are strange but effective." Eli nodded. He allowed them to observe, explaining processes simply, showing step by step, but never dominating the conversation. His quiet guidance encouraged them to think creatively, to combine their knowledge with his intuition. By the end of part 2, Eli's influence had grown significantly. He had solved machinery problems, neutralized threats, and improved the well-being of the crew, all without raising his voice or seeking attention. Yet he knew challenges were far from over. The station's efficiency depended on more than just good food and functioning machines. Political tensions between alien factions simmered beneath the surface. Supply chains remained fragile, and a threat from outside the station lurked in the void of space. Eli did not fear these challenges. He simply prepared, quietly observing, learning, and quietly mastering the environment around him. The aliens may have underestimated the quiet human at first, but they were beginning to realize that his silence was not weakness. It was a sign of focus, skill, and adaptability. And for Eli, that was enough. Words were unnecessary. Actions, results, and quiet competence were all that mattered. As night fell on Station Xyler, Eli cleaned the kitchen, organized ingredients, and prepared for the next day. He moved with calm efficiency, aware that each step, each dish, and each small improvement could make the difference between success and failure for the station. Commander Thorax observed him once again, silently noting the human's growth. "We may have underestimated you," he said to himself, "but now I think we have a very valuable ally." And Eli, quiet as ever, continued his work. The human who didn't speak much had begun to leave a mark far greater than anyone had imagined. The calm routine on Station Xyler was shattered one quiet morning. Sensors picked up an unknown fleet approaching fast from the edge of the sector. The aliens on the station froze in panic. This sector of space was dangerous, but no one expected a fleet to appear so suddenly, armed with unknown technology. Commander Thorax called an emergency meeting. His multi-jointed arms folded tightly as he scanned the room of panicked crew members. "We do not know their intent," he said in a firm voice. "They may attack. Prepare defenses immediately." The aliens scrambled, issuing orders, running calculations, and preparing weapons. But the humans on the station, well, there was only one human who mattered right now: Eli. Eli watched quietly from the kitchen. He noticed the tension, the scattered focus, the rushed orders. Others were moving quickly, but their plans lacked creativity, relying only on standard protocols. He didn't speak. He didn't panic. He observed. A young insectoid engineer, Rixel, rushed into the kitchen. "Eli, you need to help. We can't figure out how to defend against them. Their shields are unlike anything we've seen." Eli nodded slowly. "Show me what you have." Rixel led him to the command center. Screens displayed the incoming fleet, their ships glowing with strange energy fields. Alien strategists argued about tactics, each solution rejected by the next expert. Commander Thorax glanced at Eli, uncertain what a quiet human could contribute in this high-tech crisis. Eli looked at the schematics. Then, quietly, he began analyzing patterns. He noticed something the aliens had missed. The enemy ships relied on energy pulses that could be disrupted by interference with certain frequencies. And strangely, some of the station's food processing machinery, if modified slightly, could generate pulses strong enough to destabilize the enemy shields temporarily. He didn't explain it in technical terms. He simply instructed a few engineers and cooks to follow his steps, moving efficiently and carefully. "Do this, not that, just follow," he said calmly. The team hesitated at first. Using food machinery as a weapon, absurd, but desperation outweighed pride. They followed his instructions. Eli adjusted heaters, mixers, and chemical processors, channeling energy into the station's shield network in ways that seemed impossible. Meanwhile, the enemy fleet fired. Pulses of strange energy ripped through space, threatening the station. Aliens scrambled to counter them, but most defenses failed. Eli's modified machinery hummed, releasing a carefully calculated energy pulse. The enemy's shields flickered. Their ships shuddered. "Is it working?" Rixel shouted, eyes wide. Eli didn't answer. He observed, made slight adjustments, and pushed forward. One by one, the enemy ships faltered, their coordinated attacks falling apart. The station's crew could not believe their eyes. A human, quiet, small, unassuming, was guiding the defense strategy, using nothing but observation, quick thinking, and unconventional application of tools. Hours passed in tense silence. Every move mattered. Eli remained calm, even as alarms blared and energy pulses shook the station. He coordinated teams, combining human intuition with alien machinery. He didn't command in loud voices or issue orders like a typical officer. Instead, he worked beside his team, showing, adjusting, and calculating. Finally, the last enemy ship attempted a concentrated strike. Eli quickly rerouted power from the station's cooking and chemical processors into the shield array, creating a pulse that destabilized the attacker's formation. The fleet, confused and weakened, retreated into the darkness of space. Silence followed. The station had survived. Crew members stared at each other, unable to believe what had just occurred. Commander Tharix, normally composed, stepped forward, his expression a mixture of awe and disbelief. You saved us," he said finally. "Using cooking equipment." Eli shrugged lightly. "It works for me." The room erupted with murmurs. Aliens whispered among themselves, astonished. Even the engineers, who had doubted his methods, now regarded him with deep respect. Over the next few days, the station buzzed with a different energy. Eli's reputation as more than just a cook was solidified. Crew members now turned to him for advice on matters far beyond the kitchen. Even the scientists, who had once dismissed him, came seeking his insight for practical problem-solving. Eli, however, remained quiet. He did not seek titles, promotions, or recognition. He continued to cook, observe, and quietly guide the station in any way he could. His philosophy was simple. Actions mattered more than words. Results mattered more than appearances. Commander Tharix, however, decided to acknowledge Eli properly. He called a meeting with the entire station crew. "This human," Tharix began, his voice echoing in the central hall, "was underestimated. He spoke little, acted quietly, and yet he saved Station Xyler. He is more than a cook. He is a problem solver, a thinker, and a leader in his own way. Humans have skills we do not yet understand, and Eli is proof of that." The room erupted in applause. Aliens of all species nodded, some with awe, some with reluctant respect. Eli's green eyes glimmered faintly, but he said nothing. A small smile formed on his lips, hidden beneath quiet humility. But the battle had also revealed another truth. Threats in space were unpredictable, and even the strongest defenses could fail without creativity, intelligence, and adaptability. Eli understood that the future would bring more challenges. In the following weeks, he worked to strengthen the station's systems, using a combination of human intuition and alien technology. He created new methods for food storage that doubled as energy reserves. He designed chemical compounds from ordinary ingredients that could serve as emergency tools in crises. Other aliens watched, learned, and began to adopt some of his techniques. Slowly, collaboration grew between species. Where once there had been hierarchy, pride, and skepticism, now teamwork and ingenuity started to flourish. Even Commander Tharix noticed a subtle change in the crew. Morale was higher, efficiency was improved. And above all, the station now had confidence that they could survive the unknown challenges of space, thanks to one quiet human who refused to be underestimated. Eli continued to cook. He continued to observe. And he continued to quietly prepare, knowing that no matter what threats might appear in the void of space, humans could face them with creativity, intelligence, and calm resolve. Late one night, as he cleaned the kitchen and organized ingredients, Rixel approached him. "Eli, I have to ask, how did you know what to do? How did you see what no one else could?" Eli looked at him, calm and steady. "I watch, I think, I do. You don't always need words. You just need to notice what others miss." Rixel shook his head in disbelief, a smile forming despite the exhaustion. "Humans, you're something else." Eli chuckled softly, the first faint sound of laughter in a long while. "Works for me," he said. By the end of part 3, Eli had transformed from a quiet, underestimated cook into a central figure of survival on Station Xylar. The aliens now understood a fundamental truth. Human ingenuity and creativity could turn even the simplest tools, like cooking equipment, into life-saving solutions. And Eli, still quiet and humble, prepared for the future. There were still challenges, still dangers in the vast void, but he was ready. Quiet observation, calm action, and human creativity had proven powerful, more powerful than anyone had imagined. The silent human had not only survived. He had become indispensable. After the unexpected attack, Station Xylar slowly returned to its usual rhythm. Machines hummed, corridors glowed with soft light, and the aliens went about their duties with a new sense of confidence. Yet beneath the routine, everyone knew the station had changed. A quiet human had proven that creativity, intelligence, and calm focus could accomplish what no technology or military strategy alone could achieve. Eli continued his work in the kitchen, as always. He organized ingredients, experimented with new recipes, and carefully prepared meals for the station crew. But now, the kitchen felt different. Aliens from all corners of the station came by, not just for food, but to observe, ask questions, and learn. Some were tentative at first, afraid of failure, but Eli guided them with patience, showing rather than telling, teaching them to think creatively and carefully. Commander Tharix visited Eli frequently, often standing quietly behind him as he worked. "You have done more than feed the crew," Tharix said one evening, his voice calm but heavy with respect. "You have inspired them. Humans, your species. You solve problems we could not even see." Eli nodded, adjusting a simmering pot of nutrient-rich stew. "I just do what works," he replied softly. The station decided to hold a formal ceremony to honor those who had helped defend it. Engineers, scientists, and even junior crew members were recognized. And Eli, though hesitant, was invited as well. The central hall of Station Xylar filled with aliens of every shape and color. Commander Tharix stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. "This station has faced threats beyond imagination," Tharix began. "Some of us acted with courage, some with wisdom. But one individual, one quiet human, acted with ingenuity and calm focus that saved us all." He gestured toward Eli, who stood quietly, his hands folded. The hall erupted in applause. Many aliens had never witnessed such humility and skill in one being. Some nodded respectfully, others whispered in awe. Eli's calm demeanor remained unchanged, though a faint smile appeared at the corners of his lips. After the ceremony, aliens began seeking him out more openly. Engineers asked for his input on machinery. Scientists requested assistance in experiments. Even military strategists wanted his perspective on problem-solving in crises. Eli accepted these requests with quiet patience, demonstrating that human skill could blend seamlessly with alien technology and logic. One day, a group of young alien apprentices approached him in the kitchen. "Eli," one said, a small, purple-skinned alien with wide eyes, "we want to learn how to think like you. How do you see solutions we cannot see?" Eli smiled faintly. "Watch carefully, listen carefully. Try things. Don't fear failure, it teaches more than success. And remember, sometimes the simplest approach is the best. Actions matter more than words." The young aliens repeated his instructions, nodding eagerly. It was clear they were beginning to understand that human ingenuity often lay in observation, creativity, and perseverance, rather than brute strength or complex machinery. The station also began implementing some of Eli's innovations. Storage systems were reorganized for efficiency, chemical compounds were used to maintain machinery, and nutritional meals were optimized for crew health and energy. Productivity increased, morale improved, and the station became safer and more resilient than ever. Yet despite the respect and accolades, Eli remained humble. He never sought personal gain or recognition. He continued to cook, observe, and quietly solve problems. To him, the mission and the people he helped were more important than his own status. One afternoon, Commander Tharix approached him with a thoughtful expression. "You could have your own team, Eli, your own station department. Others would follow your methods completely." Eli shook his head slowly. "I don't need a title, I just want to do what works." "That is enough." Tharix nodded, a small smile forming. He understood the human's philosophy. It was simple but powerful. Competence, humility, and creativity often mattered far more than rank or recognition. As the weeks passed, the station received news from nearby colonies. Aliens who had once doubted humans began to speak differently of them. "They are clever, adaptable, unpredictable," one reported. "We should work with them more." Humans had earned respect not through dominance, but through ingenuity, patience, and the quiet demonstration of capability. Back in the kitchen, Eli worked on a new dish, blending ingredients from multiple alien species with human cooking techniques. The flavors were unusual but delightful. Crew members sampled it and found themselves energized, focused, and surprisingly content. Some whispered that the meals felt like more than just food. They carried the human's calm, careful energy and creativity. Rixel, the young engineer, stood nearby, watching Eli stir and adjust flavors. "You really can do everything," Rixel said in awe. "Machines, strategies, food, even morale." Eli glanced at him. "I don't do everything," he said softly. "I just do what matters and I pay attention. That's enough." Commander Tharix entered the kitchen silently and watched for a moment. Then he spoke to the gathered crew. "Let this human be a reminder. We often judge by appearances, by words, or by tradition. But sometimes greatness comes quietly. Sometimes it comes in forms we do not expect. Humans, like Eli, show us that potential cannot be measured by what we see on the surface." The crew, now fully respectful, nodded. Even the most skeptical among them acknowledged the truth. Eli's quiet competence, calm observation, and creative thinking had not only saved the station but had inspired a new way of thinking. Eli, however, remained unchanged. He returned to his work, chopping, stirring, and adjusting ingredients. The kitchen, once a place where he simply cooked, had become a hub of collaboration, innovation, and quiet leadership. As night fell on Station Xyler, Eli cleaned his workstation. He arranged ingredients neatly, wiped counters, and prepared for the next day. The station was safe. Crew members were healthy. Machinery functioned smoothly. And humans, long underestimated by other species, had earned a place of respect through observation, ingenuity, and calm determination. Commander Tharix approached one last time before retiring for the night. "You have done more than we could have imagined," he said. "Quiet, patient, and always observing, you are a true example of human capability." Eli gave a faint nod. "I just do what works," he repeated. Tharix chuckled softly. Simple words, but profound meaning. And with that he left Eli to his work. The quiet human returned to his cooking, to his observation, and to his mission. To continue solving problems, helping the crew, and quietly proving that humans could be more than what others expected. In the weeks that followed, the station continued to thrive. Aliens of all species now worked alongside humans, incorporating new methods, learning to observe more closely, and appreciating creativity as a valuable asset. The lessons Eli had demonstrated, adaptability, ingenuity, patience, and humility, spread throughout the station. Eli, for his part, never changed. He did not seek praise, did not boast, and did not speak more than necessary. He simply continued his quiet work, blending flavors, observing systems, and ensuring that Station Xyler remained safe, efficient, and a place of cooperation among species. And so, the story of the quiet human who cooked, observed, and quietly changed a space station became legend. Not because he sought fame, but because his actions spoke louder than words. His quiet strength, creativity, and calm resolve had proven that humans were capable of extraordinary things. In the end, Eli returned to his kitchen, preparing a feast for the crew. Aliens and humans alike gathered to eat, laugh, and share stories. The station was alive with energy, not just from machines, but from respect, collaboration, and the unspoken truth that humans, quiet, unassuming, and inventive, could achieve greatness in ways others could never predict. Eli stirred a pot, tasting carefully, and smiled faintly to himself. He didn't need words to show his worth. His work had spoken for him, and in the quiet hum of Station Xyler, one truth remained clear. Humans, even the quietest among them, could make a difference. He whispered softly to himself, almost as if sharing a secret with the universe.